Chosen one, broke to billionaire, begins now. The shift already started. The shift from broke to billionaire does not begin with money. It never has. Not once in the history of every person who made that journey. Not in the real stories, the unglamorous, unfiltered. Nobody was watching when it started, versions that never make it into the highlight reels. It begins with something that happens invisibly, internally, in a specific moment, often unremarkable from the outside, often happening in the middle of an ordinary, difficult day, where something in the chosen one's relationship with their own identity permanently, irreversibly changes. Not their bank account, their identity. The moment they stop being a person who is broke and trying to make money, and become, in the deepest, most non-negotiable part of how they understand themselves, a person whose financial destiny has been written at a level that their current circumstances simply haven't caught up to yet. That shift, that specific interior identity level shift, is what every single broke to billionaire story actually starts with. And here is what I need you to understand right now, today, in this specific message. That shift has already started in you, not because of anything I'm saying, not because of a decision you consciously made, but because something in you, some deep, stubborn, can't-be-extinguished intelligence about your own destiny led you here, to this message, at this moment, when the circumstances of your life are exactly what they are, and the belief that something is about to change is fighting for survival against everything that says it shouldn't, that something is the shift, and it has already started. I want to describe something to you that doesn't often get described honestly. Not the practical reality of not having enough money, the bills and the math and the logistics of making it work. That part is documented everywhere. The internet is full of advice for the financially struggling. What doesn't get described is the internal experience. What it actually feels like to live in your own mind when the financial reality of your life consistently falls short of the vision you carry for it. It feels like being split in two. There is a version of you that wakes up every morning and knows with a certainty that has survived every piece of evidence against it. That has outlasted every disappointment and delay and season of contradiction, that you were built for something significant. That the life you're living right now is not the whole story. That something larger is forming, has been forming. That the struggle is not the destination. And then there is the version of you that looks at the account balance, that answers the phone call you've been avoiding, that does the math one more time and comes up short one more time and has to find one more way to make it work for one more day. And living between those two versions, the one that knows and the one that calculates, is one of the most quietly exhausting experiences available to a human being. Because the knowing doesn't pay the bills, and the bills don't care about the knowing, so you carry both, the vision and the reality, the faith and the fear, the certainty that something is coming and the terror that it might not come fast enough, or in the right form, or before the circumstances make the believing too expensive to continue, and you do it mostly alone. Because the specific combination of deep belief in an unlikely future and current financial struggle is not something most people around you have the language to hold with you. They either tell you to be more realistic, or they offer encouragement that sounds good but doesn't touch the specific ache of the gap, so you carry it quietly. And you keep going. And you wonder, on the hardest days, if the shift you can feel approaching is real, or if it's a story your mind invented to make the struggle survivable. It's real. And today, I'm going to show you the evidence. Why broke is a temporary address and not a permanent identity, the first and most foundational thing I need to establish in your mind, not as a motivational platitude, but as a psychological reality that changes everything downstream, is the difference between a financial condition and a financial condition and a financial identity. A financial condition is temporary. It is a set of circumstances that exists in the current moment, produced by a combination of history, choices, opportunities, limitations, and timing, most of which you did not fully control. It is real. It has real consequences. It demands real practical attention. But it is not you. It is not the definition of what is possible for you. It is not the ceiling of your story. A financial identity, by contrast, is the story you tell yourself about your permanent relationship with money, about what kind of person you are in the financial landscape, about whether wealth is something you're capable of building, holding, or something that happens to other kinds of people. The tragedy that keeps most broke people broke is not the absence of opportunity. It is the adoption of a broke identity. The moment when a temporary financial condition which is circumstantial becomes a self-concept which is foundational, because the self-concept shapes every decision that follows it. The person who has internalized a broke identity makes decisions from broke consciousness even when opportunities for wealth are present. They undercharge, underinvest, underestimate. Underreach not because they lack ability, but because the identity running the decision-making is still operating from the assumption that abundance isn't really for them. The broke-to-billionaire journey in every single case involves the deliberate, intentional, sometimes painful work of separating the financial condition from the financial identity, of choosing, consciously and consistently, to stop identifying as a broke person who is trying to get rich and starting to inhabit the identity of a wealthy person whose circumstances are still in the process of catching up. That is not delusion. That is the first and most essential act of genuine financial transformation. And it starts today. The specific mindset that creates billionaires and why you already have the raw material. Let me tell you something about the billionaire mindset that the internet consistently gets wrong. It is not fearlessness. Billionaires are not people who don't feel fear. Many of them describe fear as a constant companion across the most significant periods of their building. It is not unlimited confidence. Many of the most financially successful people in history were riddled with self-doubt at crucial moments. Some of the most transformative financial decisions ever made were made by people who weren't sure they were right. And it is not the absence of failure. Every significant wealth story is saturated with failure, with losses that would have been final for lesser commitments, with mistakes that cost dearly, with seasons of genuine, extended, publicly visible breakdown. What the billionaire mindset actually is, stripped of everything that doesn't hold up under scrutiny, is this: an unbreakable relationship between vision and action. Not vision alone, not action alone. The specific, stubborn, neither one without the other combination of a clear picture of what could be, and the willingness to move toward it consistently, regardless of what the current circumstances say about whether it's achievable. Vision without action is fantasy. Action without vision is busyness. But vision held with enough clarity and enough conviction to direct consistent action through seasons of opposition, of delay, of apparent failure, that combination is the engine of every significant wealth story ever told. And here is why I said you already have the raw material: the fact that you are still here, still watching, still believing in the face of circumstances that have given you comprehensive permission to stop. The fact that the vision is still alive in you, worn maybe, tired, definitely. But alive is evidence that you have the relationship between vision and commitment that billionaires are built from. You have not given up on a vision that the circumstances have been arguing against for a long time. That is not ordinary. That is the raw material of extraordinary outcomes. The shift that already started. How to recognize it from the inside? Let me describe the shift that has already begun in you, because you need to know what it feels and looks like from the inside, so you can recognize it as something real, rather than something you're hoping is real. The shift doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with a dramatic sign that says, "Here is the moment everything begins to change." It infiltrates. It shows up in small, subtle, almost missable alterations in how you're thinking, how you're responding, what you're noticing. You have been thinking differently lately. Not necessarily more positively. The circumstances haven't changed enough to justify automatic positivity, but differently, with a different quality of attention. As if some part of you has begun operating from a slightly elevated vantage point that gives you a view of your situation that is marginally wider than the view you had before. You have been drawn to different information, different conversations, different questions, the content you seek out, the ideas that hold your attention, the people whose words resonate. They've shifted in the direction of the destination rather than the current location. That's not random. That's the navigation system recalibrating for a new destination. You have felt a specific, inexplicable restlessness, an urgency that doesn't match any external deadline but that feels internal and important. Like something is pressing against the inside of your current life from the direction of the life that's trying to emerge. Like the current version of things can't contain what's building for much longer. And you have had moments, brief, unpredictable, sometimes embarrassingly ordinary in their context of complete and total knowing. Of certainty so clean and so specific that it bypassed all the usual doubt and landed somewhere deeper. The knowing that this is the season, that what's coming is real, that the story is not over, is in fact barely begun. Those moments are not manufactured hope, they are perception. Your spirit perceiving something that your circumstances have not yet confirmed, but that is nonetheless true and real and already in motion. The shift has started. The evidence is in you. The broke season's hidden gift, what poverty built that money cannot buy. I need to say something that is going to require you to hold two things simultaneously. The honest, legitimate difficulty of financial struggle which deserves to be honored and not minimized, and specific, irreplaceable, cannot be purchased at any price gift that the broke season delivers to the people who survive it with their character intact. The broke season builds a specific quality of strength that comfortable people simply do not have. It builds resourcefulness, the ability to produce results from limited inputs, to see possibilities that the person with endless resources walks past because they don't have to see them, to solve problems creatively because throwing money at them isn't available. This resourcefulness, this specific, trained, deeply embedded skill of doing more with less, is one of the most valuable competencies a builder can have. And it is forged exclusively in the school of genuine limitation. It builds discernment. The person who has been broke knows the difference between genuine need and manufactured urgency, between real opportunity and expensive noise, between the people who show up when you have nothing and the people who appear when you have something to offer. That discernment is worth more in the management of significant wealth than any financial education available. It builds depth of character that comfort cannot produce. The empathy for others in struggle that only comes from having been in the struggle. The humility that comes from knowing personally what it feels like to need something and not have it. The genuine gratitude for provision that the person who was never without cannot fully access. And it builds an internal relationship with wealth, a psychology of abundance that is permanently shaped by the contrast of the lean season. The person who earned their financial transformation through genuine hardship carries that transformation differently than the person who inherited it. They steward it with a seriousness and a gratitude that tends to make it last. Your broke season was not wasted time. It was mandatory preparation for the kind of wealth that doesn't disappear when it arrives, because the person holding it was built to hold it. The identity upgrade that precedes the financial upgrade, who you have to become before the money arrives here, is the sequence that almost nobody talks about honestly, because it sounds backwards until you understand it deeply. The financial upgrade does not produce the identity upgrade. The identity upgrade produces the financial upgrade. The person who waits to feel wealthy until the money arrives will never feel wealthy when it does. Because the identity that receives the money is the same identity that couldn't hold it before, and it will find ways, unconsciously and systematically, to return to the financial level that feels congruent with its self-concept. But the person who does the identity work first, who becomes, in their self-understanding and their daily decisions and their relationship with money and their sense of their own worth, the wealthy version of themselves before the bank account confirms it, that person creates the internal conditions that abundance flows toward and stays in. What does the identity upgrade actually look like in daily practice? It looks like making decisions from your destination rather than your current location. When you face a financial choice about how to price your work, about what opportunities to pursue, about what you're willing to accept, you ask not, "What can I afford?" but "What would the person I'm becoming decide?" It looks like changing the language you use to describe your financial life, not into denial, not pretending abundance exists where it doesn't, but into accuracy about trajectory rather than current position. "I'm building towards significant wealth" is both honest and identity-forming in a way that "I'm broke" is not. It looks like consuming information, maintaining relationships, and making choices that belong to the destination identity rather than the current position identity. Reading what wealthy people read. Thinking about problems at the scale wealthy people think about them. Treating your time and your gifts with the seriousness of someone who understands their value rather than the apology of someone who isn't sure they're worth much. None of this is performance. It is identity engineering. And it is the specific, practical, daily work that closes the gap between where you are and where you're going faster than any external strategy. The people who fund the journey finding your financial tribe, one of the most consistent patterns in broke to billionaire stories that almost never gets the attention it deserves, is this. Nobody makes the journey alone, not because the solo effort isn't real. The work is real. The discipline is real. The late nights and the sacrifices and the showing up when it would have been so. Much easier to stop all of that is real and belongs to the individual who did it. But the trajectory of every significant wealth story includes, always, a small number of specific people whose presence in the journey changed what was possible. People who believed when the evidence didn't support believing. People who opened doors that couldn't have been reached without the introduction. People who invested financially, relationally, or with their endorsement in a vision that wasn't yet visible enough to attract investment from anyone less committed to the person's potential. These people are your financial tribe, and finding them, recognizing them, investing in those relationships, being the kind of person that the right people want to invest in is one of the most important practical assignments of the broke to billionaire journey. Your financial tribe is not assembled through aggressive networking. It is attracted through authentic expression of who you are and what you're building. The right people, the ones who are meant to be part of your story, are drawn toward genuine vision expressed by a genuine person with genuine depth. They are repelled by performance. They are drawn toward truth, which means the most effective thing you can do to attract the people who will fund and accelerate your journey is to show up, consistently and authentically, as exactly who you are and exactly what you're building. No disguise, no impression management, just the real you, building the real thing, in the real direction of where you're actually going. Your tribe will find you there, or you will find each other. And when you do, the journey accelerates in ways that solo effort could not have produced. The revenue gap, closing the distance between what you know and what you earn here, is one of the most practically significant insights in this entire message, because it points to a specific, actionable, immediately applicable truth about where the broke to billionaire journey often gets stuck. Most chosen ones who are in financial struggle are not experiencing a knowledge gap. They know enough. They understand enough. They have absorbed enough information, developed enough skill, accumulated enough experience to be producing at a significantly higher level than their current income reflects. They are experiencing a revenue gap. The distance between what they know how to do and what they are currently being paid for doing it. This gap is almost never about the quality of what they offer. It is about one or more of the following: how they position what they offer, who they are offering it to, what they charge for it, and how effectively they communicate its value to people who have the resources and the need to pay for it appropriately. The person who knows how to do something valuable but offers it at survival prices to people who cannot afford more will remain in the broke season. Indefinitely, not because their gifts are insufficient, but because the commercial expression of those gifts is misaligned with the actual market for what they do. Closing the revenue gap requires an honest audit of these four factors. What am I offering, and is it positioned clearly? Enough for the right people to recognize its value? Who am I offering it to, and do they have the resources and the genuine need to pay what it's actually worth? What am I charging, and does that number reflect the real value created, or the amount I feel comfortable asking for? And how am I communicating the offer? Does the communication convey the value with enough clarity and confidence to justify the price? The answers to these four questions contain specific, practical, immediately actionable intelligence about where the revenue gap is widest and how to begin closing it. You are not broke because your gifts are insufficient. You may be broke because the commercial expression of your gifts has not yet caught up to their actual value. Close the gap. The daily architecture of the shift building the billionaire life 1 hour at a time, the broke to billionaire journey feels, from the outside, like a single dramatic story. The before and the after. The struggle and the breakthrough. The moment everything changed. From the inside, it is made of thousands of ordinary days. Each one offering the choice between the habits that maintain the current position and the habits that build the destination. And the person who eventually arrives at the destination is not the one who had the most dramatic moments of inspiration. It is the one who built the most consistent daily architecture. The one who made the unglamorous, unwitnessed, nobody is watching choices hour after hour, day after day that compound over time into a life that was unimaginable from the starting point. Let me tell you what that daily architecture looks like. It starts with the first hour. How you spend the first hour of your day determines the energy frequency you carry into everything that follows it. The chosen one who is building towards significant wealth does not give their first hour to passive consumption, to social media and news and the anxiety-generating noise of the world's agenda for their attention. They give it to the internal work, prayer, reflection, clarity about what they're building and why. And the specific small actions that move the needle before the day's demands have a chance to consume all available bandwidth. It continues with the revenue-generating activity that happens before anything else. Before the administrative tasks. Before the email management. Before the problem-solving that feels urgent but isn't important. The specific, direct, uncomfortable, often avoided activity that is most directly connected to the income the destination requires. That activity gets the best hours, not the leftover ones. It includes consistent learning that is applied immediately. Not the knowledge hoarding we discussed earlier, but the specific, targeted acquisition of knowledge that fills the precise gap between current capability and next-level requirement, followed immediately by the action that puts the new knowledge to work. And it ends with honest assessment A, brief, private, non-judgmental accounting of the day. What moved? What didn't? What decision or action or conversation was avoided that needs to happen tomorrow? Not guilt information. The daily calibration that keeps the trajectory honest. This architecture, built and maintained consistently, is the unsexy, unglamorous, completely reliable engine of the broke to billionaire journey. Build it, protect it, return to it every time the circumstances disrupt it. The destination is assembled one daily hour at a time. The billionaire ceiling, breaking the mental limit that caps the journey here, is the most counterintuitive section of this message, and the one that is most specific to the chosen one who has done everything right and is still not reaching the level they believe they were built for. There is a ceiling in your mind, a specific subconsciously enforced upper limit on what you believe is achievable for you in this lifetime. And it is lower than your vision, much lower than you. Potential, sometimes significantly lower even than what the people in your immediate orbit have already achieved. This ceiling was set, like most of the important things in your financial psychology, before you were old enough to choose what to believe. It was set by the highest level of financial achievement you witnessed in your formative environment, by the ceiling of the most successful person you were close enough to see in detail, by the implicit message of what was possible for people who looked and lived and came from where you came from. And no matter how much you consciously believe in your potential, no matter how clearly your vision exceeds that ceiling when you approach it, something happens. The opportunity gets minimized, the price gets reduced, the ask gets softened, the commitment gets pulled back, the decision that would have broken through gets deferred. Not consciously. The ceiling operates below the level of conscious awareness. But its effect is real and measurable, and the primary reason that many chosen ones plateau at a level that is significantly below what they were built to reach. Breaking through the billionaire ceiling is not primarily a strategic challenge. It is a psychological one. It requires the specific, targeted work of identifying where the ceiling is set, understanding why it's there, and making the conscious, repeated, reinforced decision to exceed it not once, dramatically, but consistently, in the daily choices that either honor the ceiling or break through it. Surround yourself with evidence of people who came from where you came from and reached further than where your ceiling sits. Not to compare, to recalibrate, to give your subconscious evidence that the ceiling was a belief, not a law, and that beliefs, unlike laws, can be changed. Your billionaire ceiling is not the edge of what's possible for you. It is the edge of what you've been convinced is possible for you. The conviction can change, starting today. The moment the journey becomes irreversible, how you'll know the shift is complete. I want to tell you about a specific moment that is coming. Not as prophecy, as the natural, inevitable result of everything this message has been building toward. The moment when the broke to billionaire journey becomes irreversible. Not the moment the first major money arrives. Not the moment the business hits a milestone or the investment pays off or the external confirmation of the financial shift becomes undeniable to everyone watching. The irreversible moment happens before all of that. It happens inside. It is the moment when the wealthy identity stops being something you're working toward and becomes simply who you are. When the daily practice of inhabiting the destination identity is no longer practice, it is just how you think, how you decide, how you carry yourself in every room you walk into. When someone asks you about your financial situation and your honest, automatic, unperformed answer comes from the destination rather than the current position. Not because the circumstances have fully caught up yet, because the identity has. When the fear that used to accompany financial decisions, the specific, familiar, exhausting fear of not having enough, of making the wrong move, of losing what little there is replaced by a different quality. Not fearlessness, but the grounded, rooted, anchored confidence of a person who has made peace with the fact that they are in process towards something certain, and who trusts the process with a confidence that comes from having done the internal work rather than having received the external confirmation. When the people closest to you notice something has changed in how you carry yourself, when the energy in the room shifts when you enter it, when the quality of the opportunities that find you begins to reflect the frequency you're actually broadcasting rather than the history your circumstances suggest, that moment is the irreversible one. And once it happens, once the identity shift is complete, the external financial reality is just a matter of time and continued action. It has to catch up. Identity always produces corresponding circumstances, given enough time and consistent alignment. The moment is coming. For some of you, it is very close. For some of you reading this today, it just arrived. I want to leave you with something that is not inspiration, not motivation, not the charged feeling of a message that produces energy in the moment and fades by tomorrow. I want to leave you with a fact, the shift from broke to billionaire, the real journey, the one that permanently and irreversibly changes the financial trajectory of a chosen one's life, has already started in you. Not as a result of this message. This message didn't start it. It was already in motion before you found this. The evidence of it is in the fact that you're here, still seeking, still believing, still investing attention and intention in a future that your current circumstances have been arguing against for a significant amount of time. That persistence, that specific, stubborn, real refusal to stop believing in the face of everything that says you should, is not an ordinary quality. It is the specific quality that every single person who ever went from broke to financially extraordinary possessed at the beginning of their journey. Not talent, not connections, not favorable circumstances or lucky timing or special treatment. The refusal to quit on a vision that the circumstances hadn't confirmed yet. You have that. You've had it this whole time. Through the seasons that were designed to extinguish it. Through the disappointments that would have justified releasing it. Through the comparisons and the delays and the specific, targeted difficulty of watching other people's stories move while yours seem to stay still. You still have it. And that means the journey is not just possible. It has already begun. The broke season is ending. Not with a dramatic announcement, but with the quiet, certain, already in motion reality of a chosen one who finally understands what they're carrying and what it's worth and where it's going. The billionaire version of your life is not a distant dream. It is the next chapter of a story that started the day you refused to stop. Go write it. It has been waiting for you long enough. If something in this message woke something up in you, if you felt the shift recognize itself in these words, subscribe and stay close. Every message in this space is written for the chosen one who is in the middle of the most important journey of their life and needs the truth, not just the encouragement. Subscribe. The shift has started. Don't stop now.